It's Friday, 17th of October, and yesterday, in a Find Out Now poll, the Greens overtook Labour for the first time ever, and I think it was Labour's lowest score, 15%, since 1910. So, this is from Find Out Now, and they've always been sort of different from everyone else. They've always had Reform a lot higher and Labour a lot lower. So, people are saying that you can't judge on this. But I think they've done pretty well at the council elections in May, and they were also predicting Reform would do very well. And also, I think they use a different sort of algorithm or model, as they call it in polling, where they don't. The other ones, for the don't knows, they take into account how they've traditionally voted, whereas Find Out Now don't do that. I don't know if that's correct, but something like that, because history doesn't matter anymore for the polls, because Reform are brand new, and the Green thing's a new thing, Labour going down's a new thing as well as Tories. It was always Labour and Tory, and now those two in this poll have got 31% of the total, so it's also interesting. I think others were on 10%, and this includes SNP, the Northern Ireland things as well. But I'd be interested how much of that is Jeremy Corbyn's party, currently called Your Party, as a holding name, and other independents, because you've got the Aspire Party in East London, and we've got 5 independent MPs which are sort of allied with Jeremy Corbyn, etc. at the moment. But they might drift on. They may just become independents on their own to represent their own constituency, or they may all join up. I don't know. Anyway, they're sort of just now with Your Party. But I think it's interesting this because Zack Polanski just became the new leader of the Greens, and it's no surprise to me. I've always wondered, why aren't socialists voting Green? I've been wondering that for decades. So how they've stuck with Labour or whatever they do, I don't know. I mean, Green was so obvious. I mean, everything about the Greens is likeable if you're that way thinking. But personally, I think you should be voting on one issue only at the moment, and that means voting for Reform or Advance UK or whoever's toughest on it. I don't think anyone's tough enough yet, but we're going that way. It's an Overton window shift. Even Reform seem to have moved, possibly under Zia Youssef. He seems to be taking the lead on these things. So I think we should be voting on one issue, really treating the electoral system as a referendum on that issue. So I'm voting Reform at the moment. I would vote Advance. Whichever of those two would win a seat. I don't agree with first past the post. I think it should be like we should vote on issues, not for parties or party hampers. So I think that's going to happen eventually. I mean, it's looking like first past the post might come in. I mean, Reform were in favour of first past the post, but it wouldn't surprise me if now they want to stick. No, they were in favour of proportional representation, apart from Rupert Law, before he get kicked out. But now, it wouldn't surprise me now if they're in favour of first past the post, because you only need about 33% to win 2/3 of the seats in Parliament. It's very undemocratic. It wouldn't surprise me if they're happy with that, though. But anyway, I want to focus on the Green Party here because, like I say, I don't know why socialists haven't been supporting the Greens for decades. To me, it's a sort of snobbery, leftist snobbery, that, oh no, we support Labour, we support Jeremy. They idolise people. So they idolise Jeremy. I don't know why. Because to me, he's really boring. And he had his chance, really, and he sort of watered it down. We don't know how much of that was to do with John McDonnell as well, but apparently George Galloway and John McDonnell don't go on. Not that you should take anything out of that, but yeah, apparently the week before Labour were 17%. Now they're down to 15%. Apparently it's Greens 15.3%, Labour 15.2%, but there's an error of margin, like 1% or something. I asked about that, and they said I'm correct, but then they said it was the other way around. They said it was Labour 15.3% and Greens also, but I thought it was the other way. I thought the Greens were 15.3, Labour were 15.2. But like I say, that's Labour. First time since 1910 they've been low as that. And I think Keir said that 2019 was our biggest disaster ever. Even though in that election Jeremy Corbyn got more votes than Keir Starmer did in 2024. Yeah, I mean, Keir Starmer's the first unlikable Prime Minister I can think of. I really dislike him, and he seems to do do the dirty on everyone, even his own speechwriters and his own side, you know. So I don't think anyone supports him, even in his cabinet or his MPs. So because we've got an undemocratic electoral system with 33% of the voter share from a 59% turnout, the lowest ever, I think, or since the war. Yeah, he get 2/3 of the seats, and he said that the people have spoken. You know, well, they haven't spoken, so they didn't have a mandate in the first place. Now he's saying they're down 15%, but if you still get 2/3 of the MPs, that's all he's bothered about. But anyway, I want to go on about Zack Polanski and that. You know, I think he's doing a great job. Apart from one thing, he's trying to sell. You know, he's trying to sell multi, saying it's a great thing for Britain. So on that, I could never vote for him, and I think he'll fail on that anyway, because I think the way we're going, I think the most vociferous Reform and Advance UK supporters in the near future are going to be non-activist Green voters, SNP marchers, Plaid Cymru nationalist fanatics. They're all going to be the ones that are going to be Reform and Advance UK, the most vociferous, you know, once they realise the way the country's going. So really, and it's good that Zack's trying to sell it to us, and as the SNP are as well. The SNP have said, and Nicola Sturgeon just said a few weeks ago, she says, people don't realise how pro we are this, and we're the only ones that are going to make the positive case for it. Yeah, there's no point in chasing reform on it, because people will just go for reform instead. But that never happened in Denmark, actually. In Denmark, they went very right on this issue around about 2015, and the Labour Party, they are basically changed the policy. In fact, it was Stephen Kinnock's wife who was the Prime Minister there. She lost the election in 2015. She was still too soft on this issue. But then the next Labour leader came in and was very hard on it. And then they won the next election, 2019. Personally, I think Denmark made a mistake doing that. Probably they weren't hard enough, but they say they're the hardest on this in Europe, but it's probably still not hard enough. But anyway, so I think Nicola Sturgeon's wrong when she says they would vote for him. I think a lot of people want to vote left, but not in this issue. So, yeah. So, yeah. So they're going to lose all those left people, you know. And it is weird the way it's going at the moment. It's going at the moment. The winners are Reform, Lib Dems, and the Greens. And I just don't understand the Lib Dem popularity, especially in certain areas. Maybe they've not changed enough for the people to worry about, or I don't know really. And maybe it might be something to do with Daisy Cooper slandered Tommy this week in Parliament, really, and maybe that had something to do with the way people have. Because Lib Dem's done very well in the council by-elections, but I really don't know why. There's a by-election for the Welsh Senate next week, and Reform are in 42% for it. This is Caerphilly by-election in Wales, and Plaid Cymru are in 38%, they're up 10. Labour have dropped 34% to 12%. Tories have dropped to 4%, so they're down from 17. Greens are new at 3%, so there's no real Zack Polanski jump from that. And the Lib Dems are 1%, so they're totally irrelevant, really. But yeah, Caerphilly, it looks as if the Welsh have really gone for reform, so that's good to see. I think Scotland will go the same way as well once people realise. Yeah, because apparently at the moment, I don't know if it's this poll, or in general, but yeah, I think it's this poll. Maybe about 18% of Plaid Cymru have went to Reform, and about 10 or 15% of Labour. 70% Tory, former Tory, wanting to reform. I don't know if that's in Wales in total or just in this constituency. But I don't know why people are going for Plaid Cymru rather than Labour. Maybe, maybe it's to do with what's happened in the Middle East recently. I don't know. I don't really understand that. I can understand the reform thing. I think a lot have probably just went straight from Labour to reform. And the excellent stats for lefties is saying if these were repeated at a Senate election, so that's the Welsh election, they've got a proportional representation way now. They've changed their way, I think. It would be Reform in 54 seats, Plaid in 34, Labour 6, Green 2, Tories 0, Lib Dem 0, and Reform would have a majority of 12 seats. So Wales is totally gone. I mean, carefully, I would imagine that's been a Labour always, really. So our Labour, they're down 34. They were at 46% in October 2020. No, in 2021. It's very undemocratic there. They get to vote only every 5 years, same as in Scotland and in Britain, really. It's very undemocratic. If you're going to keep first past the post and that, I think it needs to be every 3 years, like in Australia. I mean, like I say, he's calling himself eco-populist, which is fair enough. And one thing he's doing is making sure he's got a big internet presence, which I think's that's a definite. Probably all the other parties will follow him on this now because, I mean, Reform are doing it to an extent, but it's the way the public get their information now, I still see, hearing of Labour and that talking about, yes, we're going to be delivering leaflets, we're going to be going door to door. Do people want them coming to their door? And as leaflets, do people read the leaflets or do they just throw them out? I mean, while they're delivering on the leaflets, they're probably looking at their phones all the time, looking at Instagram and whatever they do, because that's how they live their lives. But they seem to think that the public, we're reading leaflets and watching BBC Question Time and things, like watching Parliament's questions in Parliament. We're not watching any of that really. I mean, I watch a lot of. I follow politics a lot, and I don't watch Question Time. I don't watch because it's silly. I don't watch Prime Minister's Questions because it's silly. I don't really watch anything to do with Parliament now. I just get my information online. If there's something I want to watch, a speech or something, I'll watch it online. Because I think people have been complaining that Nigel Farage is hardly in Parliament. Well, that's a very sensible idea in my opinion, because once you're in there, nobody knows what you're up to, because for a start, you're having to wait until you get called to make your speech or whatever. Maybe just a question. So you're spending all day waiting in your seats, waiting a bit. And meanwhile, others are making internet stuff and the public are reading them, looking at them. So I totally agree with it. I mean, I've always liked the Greens anyway, apart from one issue, which makes them unvotable, because actually they want to on that policy, they want to change Britain faster than all the others, so they're actually the worst on it. They really want open borders, really, and SNP aren't far behind them, and Plaid Cymru, they're the three big ones, really, and the Lib Dems. Labour, I mean, people coming over the dinghies, they would probably say to the British, keep voting these parties. We prefer if you'd vote Green, SNP, Plaid Cymru, but it's okay if you vote Labour and Lib Dems, and it's even okay if you vote Tories, but don't vote for Reform or Advance UK. That would be their message, I think. So, and he's also he's gone on a lot of the mainstream shows, the legacy corporate shows, which I don't watch myself, but you see clips of it on Twitter and stuff. So, I mean, personally, I wouldn't go on them because you get interrupted all the time, either by the presenter or they've got someone else in to argue with you, and it's just a lot of nonsense, really. Most of it. He seems to be doing that at the moment, though. So, I think he said he's not going on some show. I can't remember what it is, whether it's GB News or Talk Radio or whatever. I he said it was just a waste of time because he was always getting interrupted or channeled one way. I certainly agree with him though that you've got to be out there and big internet presence, because the previous two, the co-leaders, I don't think I even knew who they were, you know. And like I say, most of the socialist left seem to go by idols. So, and I actually saw a YouTube thing last week where the guy uploaded Question Time and he was commenting on it, and he said he doesn't watch it anymore, but he watched, and he was an ultra socialist, and he's watching it because Zack Polanski's on, you know. So there you go. That's the effect. Personally, I think the left like their idols, even though they say it's about issues, you know. Because really, they should have been voting Greens decades ago. I've always wondered why they haven't been voting the Greens. So he's linking climate and economic hardship. He's directly challenging the political class and wealth. Yeah, he's going on about the patriotic millionaires who are on X. You should follow them. Who are saying that the wealth are too wealthy. You know, you can have too much wealth. And Brian Eno's amongst them. At the moment, they've got a thing where they want to be taxed 5% of their wealth. I think that's annually. I'm not sure. Brian Eno would like it to be 10%. That's the guy from Roxy Music. You know, he says he just qualifies for the group because he's like around about the 10 million range in wealth. But yeah, he says it's ridiculous. You know, once you've got a certain amount, it's just ridiculous. So it can't be that much if you only get 10 million. You know, because at the moment, if you had 5 million of you could put in the bank, you can get about 3% interest rate at the moment. So what's that? 5 million. 150,000 a year or something, just on interest. So he's linking climate and economic hardship. Well, good luck with that. I think we should just see how good green energy is, and we should all be, because it'll be clean and cheap. That's what I would argue it on, you know, and it'll be easy to maintain. We should all be self-sufficient, you know. We should all have solar panels on our roof, have a battery, have an e-car, and then we can even sell electricity back to virtual power plant tariffs. That's where you're doing away with a power plant because you'll be part of a virtual power plant, and even your car battery can be part of that, where you can take excess energy and put it onto the thingy, and that'll do away with the power plant altogether. I think that's the future, you know. I haven't seen the Greens go on about that very much. I mean, Elon Musk just applied for a license for it, but you can do those sort of tariffs already. And he's championing radical economic policies, yeah, so he's a fan of the patriotic millionaires. And he also likes the idea by Richard Tice where currently the Bank of England is paying commercial banks interest on something to do with the 2008 crash, whereas no other country does that, you know. So Richard Tice has said we could save billions here by not giving them that interest, you know, and that's somebody from the city saying that about the commercial banks. You know, he says the taxpayers giving away billions because of this, and Zack Polanski totally agrees with him. So that's the way it should be, you know. These things happen, and I don't know why really. As Dale Vince also says, like our energy, electricity, I think, generated, whatever source of the energy of the electricity is the dearest, is what the price strike is at, and that's always gas, because green energy is a lot cheaper than gas now, but because gas, there's always a bit of gas in the system, they've got to go by that price, and that's why we're paying so much, because gas is so dear over the last few years. And Dale Vance says he should just delink gas from, or all of them, just make them all play in it in a come as you go service, you know. So green energy would be really cheap then, but for some reason the government haven't done it. I don't know why really. There's lots of strange things like this going on, and he's championing radical economic policies, proposing to regulate private corporations more and introduce a wealth tax on the richest 1% and renationalise key utilities like water and steel, adopting a confrontational style. Yeah, he has done that. He was on Question Time the other day. I mean, he is calling people on the issue, the only issue I think we should be voting on he's calling them fash and things like that, you know. I'm not saying the word out totally. Probably the R word as well, which I think is totally wrong. I think he'll lose a lot of people because of that. Not just because of that, because he wants to say it's a good thing as well. He wants to. I think by promoting it, it's going to make people realise how they feel about it, you know, and then long-term Green voters who are non-activists are probably going to, oh, I can see now the future, and they're going to switch to Reform and Advance, you know. So that I think it's going to make the flight away from the Greens, Labour, Lib Dems quicker, you know. So it'll backfire basically. Um, they're here to replace Labour. Yeah, I can see that totally. They should have done that decades ago. Like I say, the socialists are too idol loving, you know, and they've hung about Labour far too long. I don't know even why. I mean, when was Labour last socialist? It was 1983, I think, and they're branding the Reform leader a Trump-loving, tax-avoiding, science-denying, NHS dismantling corporate stage. Nah, that will work. Appealing to disillusioned voters. Well, he's going to get a transient vote, I think, until those people can vote somebody to do with identity. So I think they're going to get a lot because of how Labour have supported a side in the thing that's going on in the Middle East. They're going to lose a lot of their recent traditional vote, who probably are going to someday vote identity candidates. It's already started happening. There's the Aspire Party in East London. There's like 4 independents who are currently with Jeremy Corbyn loosely. They haven't become part of the party as far as I know. And I would imagine either they can't agree with each other or they'll all just go their independent ways to represent a big proportion of their own constituents, that sort of thing. I think that's the way it's going to go. Like I said, in this, I think independents are going to become a big thing, and there might be 1 or 2 big parties, just the sort of umbrella groups, one to do with a matter thing, matter lives, and another one to do with a religion, maybe. Maybe they'll try and work out that, you know, even though they might disagree with each other. But for the moment, I think they're switching from Labour to the Greens. Just a transient thing, because I don't know if they agree with a lot of the Greens things. Appealing to disillusioned voters. Yeah, at the moment they've got 110,000, I think, members. They went from like 70,000 to 110. This is the English one. You've got the Scottish one as well. So that's pretty impressive, you know. That's the sort of thing that happened to Labour when Jeremy Corbyn came leader, although he was up at 500,000 members or something, I think. And he's taking a clear stance. So I think that's the one that will be his downfall, basically. And he has been doing a thing today where he's been showing how everyone's going to be happy. But are the people who have came, are they happy as well, you know, to be part of Multi? Is that what they came for? Nobody asks, especially legacy corporate media or anything like that. It would be interesting if people started asking, why did they leave, where they were from? Are they looking forward to being the global majority in Britain? That's what they call themselves, or Global South majority plus East Europe. Are you looking forward to that? Is it how you envisage Britain what countries did you rule out? Or did you rule out continents when you were making your move? Why? So he's going to do that. So that's, nothing else matters. I think he's just totally sunk on that. But it's really good. He's really livened up things, and I think he's moving it in the right way. Because at the moment, the likes of Labour and that are still doing it as if the internet doesn't exist. Sort of top down, where you've got some sort of guru. I can't remember the guy's name, Morgan McSweeney. And then all the Labour MPs and cabinet ministers will come out with key phrases, you know, on key days. I mean, they had that thing about the online ID thing where they said they compared Nigel to someone from the past. which was totally ridiculous, you know. And obviously they'd been told to do that message in the Sunday shows. It was just so out of it. It was terrible, you know. And they do that all the time. Another thing they say is they keep talking about the working people, which is what the Tories have always done, well, over the last 15 years. Labour are always saying that now, but in my opinion, probably a big chunk of Labour voters aren't working, you know. So you've got the pensioners for a start, who I would imagine are the biggest chunk of their vote. I mean, they're down at 15-20%. Most polls are around about 20%, 22%. Personally, I think that's too high. I can find out now, right, with 15%. I would imagine a lot of them are just really old traditional voters, you know. Maybe you've got some newcomers who feel that that's the way to keep the place open for family, relatives, etc. Labour have always seen as an easy touch, so stick with what you know. There's nowhere for them to go in you because it's flux. Although they might go to the Greens, actually, I think, because they're even softer on that issue. Yeah, so that's the sort of thing we're looking at the moment. So it's pretty interesting, you know. It's like, in a weird way, it's like Reform versus Lib Dems. I don't know why the Lib Dems, I just can't explain it totally. To me, I think it might be Reform and Greens, you know, nationally. Lib Dems have their own target seats, you know, they're doing well in certain areas like the southwest of England. I don't know why again. I mean, that Daisy Cooper, she's got about 46% in her constituency. She had about 56% before that. Personally, I think Reform could take a seat next time. Yeah, so that's it for now. I just wanted to talk about the Greens under Zack Polanski. He's certainly, I think, he's really worth listening to on everything apart from that issue, that one issue, I would say. He's the wealth tax, the thing he agrees with in Richard Tice, everything really. He's tried to sell a few other things which I think he'll find impossible, especially to women. But mainly apart from that one issue, I would say you need to treat the first past the post system as a referendum. So vote Reform just now on one issue, or advance UK once they're about. Okay, that's all for now. Bye.